I stand in the rain-black coat, soaked through at the edge of my grandmother's funeral eyes, locked on Lenore as she drapes the Romanov emerald necklace around her neck. Each green stone is a dagger, a reminder of promises broken and love stolen. My chest tightens, every nerve screaming, but I don't move. I take a breath, letting anger harden into resolve. Before the storm of what's coming, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? I walked past the murmuring guests, their whispers trailing after me like smoke eyes, darting to follow my cold, measured stride. They expected tears, expected a daughter undone by grief. But today, I carried none of that. My black coat clung to the rain, heavy with purpose rather than sorrow. The mansion loomed ahead, a glass and steel fortress perched on the cliff. Stripped of warmth, every corner a testament to Lenore's meticulous control. My grandmother's sanctuary had been transformed into a sterile, gleaming museum. The chaos and laughter of the past replaced by precision and silence. Lenore thought she could erase me, that banning my visits and blocking my number would sever my claim to this place. She had overlooked one critical fact: I don't operate on emotion. I operate on evidence, on ledgers and logs. 3 months ago, before the silence claimed the house completely, my grandmother had sent one final encrypted email. Her words were careful, deliberate. She wasn't confused, wasn't senile as Lenore had claimed. She was terrified, and she trusted me to write what could not be spoken aloud. Within that email lay master access to the estate's digital infrastructure instructions, hidden among the mundane help with the bills Vesper. I don't trust them with the numbers, but she had given me more than accounts. She had given me the house itself. I reached the front door and paused, the polished oak blocking out the rain, the whispers, the world outside. My thumb hovered over the smart home app. I didn't pick locks. I logged in. Physical keys were obsolete here. Every room, every hallway, every corner was visible, audible, mine to survey. For 3 weeks, I had watched unseen, collecting patterns, noting routines, anticipating reactions. I found the media controls for the main living room, the 85-inch high-definition screen that dominated the space currently looping, calming landscapes for the mourners. I opened a secure folder on my cloud drive, selecting a single video file, time-stamped 3 weeks prior. My hand didn't shake. The trap was set. I put my phone away and stepped fully into the house, letting the silence envelope me, feeling the mansion bend to my gaze. Every camera, every sensor, every hidden input was under my command. The whispers outside faded. Inside, I was the one who controlled the narrative, now the hunter, preparing for the vultures to come inside. As I settled into the corner of the cavernous living room, watching rain lash against the floor-to-ceiling windows, my mind drifted back to the last 2 years of silence. Not the quiet of luxury, but the suffocating isolation my grandmother endured while Lenore tightened her grip. Calls I made to check in were intercepted, her responses filtered through a web of lies. Lenore painted a picture of a woman slipping into dementia, telling doctors, neighbors, even my own father, that I was too busy, too detached to care. Every claim was calculated, every word a brick in the wall she built around my grandmother's life. When I tried to ensure proper care, I hired private nurses, top-tier professionals who documented everything. Blood pressure meals, lucid moments, and then without warning, they were gone. Lenore dismissed them all, citing theft or negligence, claiming family care was sufficient to save money in a house worth millions. The reality was clear. She needed the house empty, every witness removed, control absolute. I spent hours replaying conversations, analyzing timelines, observing patterns from afar. Every gesture of feigned concern, every smile presented to inspectors, was a mask hiding manipulation and cruelty. Grief had been weaponized, used against me, against anyone who might challenge her narrative. And through it all, I watched, I learned, I recorded, I waited. My frustration was a constant pulse beneath my composed exterior. Yet with it came clarity. The anger I felt didn't cloud my judgment, it sharpened it. Each lie Lenore told, each barrier she erected only solidified my resolve. I could see the whole system she had built, a network of deception, isolation, and carefully curated appearances. It was methodical, deliberate, and criminal in its consequences. I understood her, perhaps too well, and in that understanding came power. I didn't just grieve, I strategized. I traced every decision, every misstep, every manipulation back to its source. And now, sitting in her meticulously controlled environment, I knew what had to be done. Accountability wasn't just deserved, it was inevitable. The pieces were in place. The trap had been set. The ledger of lies was about to be balanced. And Lenore would have no choice but to face the truth she spent years concealing. The storm rattled the cliffs and shook the floor-to-ceiling windows as we gathered around the long mahogany table. My father, Lenore, and Julian sat poised, each a study in self-satisfied composure, while I remained calm, my eyes quietly observing every gesture, every flicker of intent. Lenore slid a thick cream-colored envelope toward me, the paper crisp, heavy with implication. Inside were a quit-claim deed, a non-disclosure agreement, and a cashier's check for $5,000, an attempt to erase me from my grandmother's estate with a paltry bribe. Julian, ever the performer, held his phone propped against the crystal centerpiece, the ring light reflecting in his eyes as he whispered into the camera, contorting his face into a mask of tragic grief. "Thank you for the roses, guys," he murmured to his viewers, completely convinced he was the main character in some live drama, his sorrow curated for digital applause. Lenore's smile never wavered, but her eyes hardened, calculating. She sipped stolen wine and explained with fake sympathy how generous they were being, how I was struggling, how taking the offer would be in my own best interest. I opened the envelope, glanced at the check, and then looked up at them both. I wasn't struggling. I was a senior partner at my firm. Their narrative depended on my humiliation, my compliance. And that was when the shift happened. A cold, hard knot tightened in my chest. It wasn't anger. It wasn't grief. It was permission, the trigger I needed. For too long, Lenore had controlled the story-shaped perception, manipulated truth. Today, the stage was mine. I had been patient, observing, calculating, waiting for the precise moment to act. The check, the deed, the false generosity, it all crystallized the reality I had known for months. They would not see justice without me intervening. I placed the papers aside untouched and exhaled slowly, letting the storm outside mirror the one forming inside me. Calm and measured, I decided then that this dinner, this performance of mourning and pretense, was about to become the setting for the revelation they would never forget. Every glance, every word, every sip of wine would now be seen through the lens I controlled, and soon the truth they tried to bury would blaze across the room, undeniable and unstoppable. I slipped my phone from my pocket, fingers steady thumb hovering over the screen. Lenore believed she had won, that the toast, the wine, the carefully curated image of victory cemented her control. She didn't see the device in my hand as the key to unmasking everything. With a tap, The ambient jazz that had filled the dining room cut out abruptly. The lights dimmed, the storm outside reflected in the low cinematic glow, and the colossal 85-inch screen flared to life, dominating the wall with a clarity that made every detail impossible to ignore. Lenore froze. Champagne glass paused mid-air, a smile faltering as her eyes darted to the sudden shift. Julian's ring light illuminated his confusion, the live stream momentarily forgotten as his brow furrowed and his performance wavered. On the screen, the timestamp read 3 weeks prior, and the footage revealed a kitchen scene none of them could escape. Lenore relaxed in her silk morning robe, grinding pills into a fine powder, humming as though preparing a meal. My father Arthur stood in the doorway, passive, silent, watching the frail form of my grandmother lean on her walker, take her seat, and begin eating. Minutes passed each frame, etching the truth into the room's consciousness. She coughed, clawed at her throat, gasped desperate for aid, and yet he did nothing. The remote in his hand wasn't poised for action, but for indifference. His turning up the television volume, drowning her final breaths in the cheerful chatter of the morning news. Lenore's breathing hitched her earlier's confidence, unraveling into panic as the camera captured what she had hoped would remain hidden. Julian lowered his phone, his eyes wide, the polished mask of grief cracking as reality supplanted performance. I didn't speak. Words give room for deflection, for excuses, for manipulation. I needed none of that. The video spoke for itself. Every detail, every act of negligence, every ounce of cold calculation lay bare. I watched them in the dining room, the storm outside echoing the tension inside, seeing confusion, terror, and the sudden recognition of guilt ripple across their faces. My heart did not race. My hand did not shake. Patience had been my ally for weeks, and now it allowed me to orchestrate a moment of undeniable clarity. I controlled every frame, every light, every shadow. The trap I had set was no longer a potential, it was live immersive, inescapable. The truth, precise and merciless, unfolded before them with cinematic clarity, leaving no space for denial. I could see the calculated cruelty, the years of deception, the absence of compassion in real time, and I knew that justice was imminent. In that moment, I was not a daughter scorned or a grandchild bereaved. I was the executor of truth, the observer of consequences, the calm eye in a storm of revelation as Lenore, Julian, and my father were forced to confront the reality they had tried to conceal for so long. The oak doors burst open and the air shifted as officers poured into the room, boots echoing against the polished floor, voices commanding everyone to the ground. Lenore's scream tore through the dining room, high and frantic as hands gripped her wrists and cuffs clicked into place. My father Arthur remained silent, shock and grief warring on his face as officers stepped toward him, the weight of his inaction finally catching up. Julian's live stream continued, oblivious to the true stakes. His voice, shaky, proclaiming chaos and betrayal, as though he were still the center of the story. The officers ignored him, focused on the confirmed evidence, the security footage that had transformed suspicion into undeniable crime. I watched, calmly, detached my fingers, lightly tracing the edge of my phone. The tension thickened, each family member forced to confront the reality their manipulations had hidden for so long. Lenore's earlier triumph was unraveling, her confidence replaced with panic, her carefully constructed facade crumbling under the impartial scrutiny of the law. The weight of consequence settled in the room like the storm outside, relentless and unyielding. I picked up the Romanoff emerald necklace from her clutch, its stones dull and fake, a hollow symbol of the greed and deceit she had relied upon. Julian's eyes widened as I held it aloft, the truth about the imitation jewels slicing through his bravado, the reality of their deception sinking in. I walked through the ledger of debts and estate mismanagement, every calculation precise, every decision documented, revealing the truth they could no longer deny. 2 years of reverse mortgages, drained accounts, sold stocks, and loans against art. The estate was a house of cards, and they had been blind to its fragility. I outlined the legal repercussions with methodical clarity, each statement stripping power from those who had thought themselves untouchable. The officers took notes, the weight of my evidence framing the narrative, controlling the flow, turning years of lies into an undeniable record. Lenore's shouting faltered, replaced by desperate explanations that fell on ears trained to observe, not to forgive. My father wept quietly, not for his mother, but for the life and legacy he had neglected, his silence, now a testament to culpability. Julian clutched at the empty necklace, the illusion of wealth and control crumbling in his hands, the live stream capturing his downfall rather than his triumph. In that moment, I felt no gloating, no rush of vindication. I had orchestrated the revelation, set the trap, and allowed truth to play its course. Control had shifted irrevocably, the predator exposed, the ledger balanced. I was calm, detached, and unshaken, witnessing the unraveling of a house built on deception, knowing that for the first time in years, the power and legacy of this family rested where it rightfully belonged. I stepped out into the rain, leaving the chaos, the shattered illusions, and the family to face the consequences of their actions. Winning wasn't about money or jewels, it was about reclaiming my sanity, my freedom, and my power. The battlefield of deceit had been left behind, and with each step, I felt lighter, untouchable, and clear. Sometimes the greatest victories are the ones where you simply walk away. If you've been inspired by this story of strategy and empowerment, stay curious and don't miss what comes next.